here is Mike Pence. I don't think he knowingly is trying to show how so-called exceptions to abortion bans are actually, in fact, not exceptions in practice, and why these exceptions are totally useless.
Except to whitewash what Republicans are really trying to do to people who can get pregnant in this country.
Well, they also, listen, they understand how deeply unpopular these abortion bans are. And so they attempt to mitigate it by creating so-called exceptions. And again, these exceptions in practice are impossible to navigate. This is the exact same thing. The reason why these laws are a little bit sort of hard to pin down when you actually put them into practice is because that's how they're most effective. If a school is afraid because the law empowers people in Florida to sue the school for thousands of dollars because they've crossed some type of very vague line. As a gay person, am I allowed to talk about the fact that I have a husband? Am I allowed to talk that I went to on a vacation with my husband? If I say the word my husband, am I in the don't say gay realm? I don't know. So the school tells me, don't bring up anything like that, because if we get sued, we're in trouble. That type of ambiguity around these things scares off, in the instance of the don't say gay law, teachers and administrators. And in the context of abortions, it scares off doctors. Here's Mike Pence sort of providing for us a functional example of that.
Belongs.
You support banning abortion even in cases where pregnancy isn't viable. So the question is, if a doctor looks at a woman's ultrasound, sees her fetus is missing parts of its skull and a brain, and I bring that up because it's a real scenario that a woman testified to in Texas this week. You're saying that the woman should still have to carry that child to term even if there's no chance the baby would survive?
Well, let me be clear about this, because we got to be very clear on language. Look, I'm pro-life. But I've always recognized and accepted abortions in tragic circumstances, rape, incest, the life of the mother. And candidly, Dana, in cases like an ectopic pregnancy where the child simply cannot survive, I would assume that would be covered by the life of the mother exception. But in cases where it is simply a subjective judgment of a physician or a percentage potential, I always want to err on the side of life. I want to give that unborn child every chance at life. And so for me, I think the suggestion that when a baby simply is terminal or cannot survive, that we go for, that's a misnomer. I believe that's covered by the existing exceptions that I've acknowledged, but I've just known so many cases where early diagnosis or an early DNA test suggests that a child may not go to term, and then because of the courageous decisions of mothers and fathers, they've gone forward and been blessed with a healthy baby at the end of that pregnancy. So I always want to err on the side of life, but I always want to recognize exceptions in tragic circumstances.
Okay, so there it is. Okay, he assumes, he thinks this would be covered by the life exception, but he's not into like percentages. There's no button. There's no light bulb that literally is attached to women, people who can get pregnant. And if it's going to threaten their lives, it goes off. It is always in every single circumstance, not just in terms of abortion, but in any context, a subjective decision by a doctor where they weigh percentages in terms of what constitutes a life, what constitutes a threat. Is 45%? Is it 30%? 20%? 5%? If someone was to tell you today, if you walk out of your house, there's a 1% chance that you're going to die, would you do it? Would you do it if it was 20%? Would you do it at 30% or 40%? Now, if I'm in charge of you walking out of that house, What's the number in which I let you walk out? And remember now, if I let you walk out and it's not, someone else decides that's not a legitimate threat, then I go to jail or I lose my license. That's the situation that doctors in. That's why that woman went and testified from Texas, is because they literally did make her carry that to term.
Yeah, notice that he doesn't even deal with that as a real scenario. He treats it as a hypothetical, even though that was a part of the Texas testimony, where they have a full ban. Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. Like, I'm looking at this map from the Times on states where there's complete and total bans. And so none of the exceptions that he lists there would be viable in that instance, and that's why that woman was testifying in Texas, which he can't contend with, because what Mike Pence actually believes is like, all right, well, that's kind of the cost of fundamentalism, which I want to implement. Like, if a woman has to carry that baby that has an impartial skull to term, and that baby's going to die and not live, well, perhaps she was either an imperfect vessel for that child and she deserves it, or, this is what happens when we're trying to create a society based on God's will. Sorry.
Well, he also knows that the American public can't handle it.
True.
More than him wrapping his head around it. He knows the American public can't. And he is, again, you're right. He's conflating also, we should say, the life of the mother with the viability of the child. Yeah. That's not, there's no exception for non-viable fetuses.
No.
And he starts in the own interview, he's like, I don't buy the early diagnosis of non-viability. I won't buy that. And so, like, how is you as a doctor, if you know that a woman is carrying and only because of the preponderance of the evidence, you don't have 5% assuredness that the fetus is only going to live for 5 minutes outside of the womb. I mean, you don't know. Miracles happen. I mean, this is the type of stuff that makes it real. Like, they don't want to deal with this, because the fact of the matter is these exceptions are meaningless.
Yep.
Again, it's like the exception of if it's rape or incest. Well, a rape case is going to take a year.
Yep.
Before we find out if it was rape. Like, what are you saying? That you're just going to
also, not that I don't think that this would be a minor thing, but that kind of incentivizes rape accusations, doesn't it? Like, am I crazy for thinking that?
Of course. But of course they wouldn't.
It would if it was in any way actionable. And
right.
I just want this to be clear here too. Mike Pence is selling an agenda to the American public that it doesn't even seem like really his voters want. I mean, look, they'd be fine with Donald Trump implementing this kind of thing, but Trump has a 30-point lead in Iowa right now. Iowa is the state where Mike Pence is putting most of his energy behind, according to reports. I mean, I wrote down these numbers here. Trump leads by 30 points. Then it's DeSantis at 16, Tim Scott at 11, Ramaswamy at 6, Haley at 5, and Mike Pence at 4. Like, I mean, this guy is just floundering about. And even within the Republican Party, it doesn't matter. The politicians are going to implement it. That's 100% the case. But the appetite for, like, his brand of direct religious fundamentalism isn't as salient as he thinks it is, I would say.
Well, I mean, they have somebody who's just going to carry out the agenda and right. Without having to he's just going to carry out the agenda and not have to sort of like put himself as a full-on theocrat out in front of the
But being the
country.
religious fundamentalist candidate, even within the Republican Party, to my point, is not what it once was. Like, DeSantis or Trump would be horrible for abortion, but they're not leading with that. And even Pence, who is this guy, can't lead with that.
Right. Well, I think there's an awareness that in the general population, it is really bad and nobody wants to talk about it. The Republicans generally don't want to talk about it, but you're right. But DeSantis, when he signed the abortion ban in Florida, it's the only thing he's did, like, in the middle of the night.
Yep.
And didn't, call 4 press conferences about it.